which is happening in the country. Even in IITs, if you look at IIT Delhi, which is ranked somewhere around 36th in the world in terms of our R&D output. If you just count the number of papers in a kind of a database, we are ranked 36th in the world, which is not really bad. But what is actually missing in the IIT system and in general about the entire academia, particularly the higher education in India, is the relevance and context of our research. Though we are doing quite a bit of research, but the question is, what is the relevance of that to the industry? What is the relevance of that to the society? And what is that we have impacted to our research? I think these are the kind of questions that people are asking. So some of us tried to change that. These are the questions that people have been asking for quite some time now. But one of the things that we just the next slide. I think it's not able to. So one of the things that we did was, we went back to Government of India and we said that the amount of money that you are spending, is so tiny that with that kind of a money, expecting a big impact is going to be difficult. And therefore, we need to create facilities in academic institutions. So about 10 years ago, so this is essentially, I will use it as a case study. About 10 years ago, we actually created a platform called NNETRA, which stands for the Nanoelectronics Network for Research and Applications. And we actually started to, next slide. So we actually created these centers at multiple places, and we started to look at creating the high-end facilities and use these facilities to start to develop technologies which can be of relevance to the country. And that is where we, some of these products have come up. So one of them is a nanotechnology-based water quality filter, and other one is an explosive detector, and then technologies for healthcare applications, and water sensors or the moisture sensors for agricultural applications. So many of them have resulted in a go to the next slide. So many of them have resulted in startups, and for example, there are at least 10 startups now out of this ecosystem. The facilities which were created in all these institutions with a specific target that now you should start to impact the society with your technological innovations. And once we set it up as a mandate for this national initiative, then people started to become more focused, and many of these have now resulted in deep tech startups. These are not some apps or anything like that. Behind each one of these startups, there is at least 10 years of intensive research, and these are all, many of them are first time in the world kind of an innovation. So this is something that has happened, but how did all this actually happen? So I will use my own example of how this happened. There is something called Internet of Things. Next slide. So we started to work on sensors. Next slide. And then just go to the next slide. Keep going. I think I'm not sure. Can I have a collar mic? Can I stand there? Started to work on the technologies and which can have an application kind of a thing. So one of the things that we did was, if you take the case of a mobile phone, the mobile phone does a few things very well. For example, there are these sensors, the cameras, excellent cameras. Mobile phones can see things very well, and mobile phones can hear things very well. Mobile phones can hear things very well. Mobile phones can also have touch sensitivity. But the two technologies that the mobile phones lack today are, for example, the smell sensors and the taste sensors. So we asked ourselves, can we start to develop technologies from which the mobile phones can start to smell things? So that is something that we started to look at. And then we started to use the nanotechnology for this application. And then, so we created these centers. We started to work in the nanotechnology kind of an area. And then we started to, for example, just change it. So we started to work together as multi-institutional kind of projects. This is, for example, IIT Bombay and IISc Bangalore. I come from IIT Bombay. I spent 20 years there as a professor. So we started to develop these facilities. The whole activity was about 400 crores. That's the kind of a money that was set up in order to carry out research research of this nature. And then, so we created multidisciplinary kind of teams. We also realized that to make an impact, you need people from different disciplines to come together. So we very consciously created multidisciplinary kind of teams, and we started to work on a top-down kind of a fashion. We identified an application which is required by the society, and then started to build the technologies in order to actually achieve that particular kind of an objective. One of the very first things we started to look at was a cardiac diagnostic sensor. For example, this is a cardiac diagnostic system. Within about 10 minutes, based on a blood test, it can actually tell you whether you are going to have a heart attack soon. So it actually looks for certain proteins in the blood, and using them, it can detect or predict the possibility of a heart attack in patients. We started to look at another technology, which is an explosive detector. This is an explosive detector which is like a sniffer dog. It can sniff explosives. Now this is currently in the prototype kind of a stage, and this is also something that has it is now a startup, and where we are also looking at an electronic nose kind of a platform. And then we also started to, for example, build things for agricultural sensors. So another application that we took up was developing these agricultural sensors. One of them is a soil moisture sensor. The other one is the macro nutrients for the soil, which can be used by the farmers. And some of them now are in the field, and so we are testing it in various kind of places. We started a company, and so this company is now interacting with so many other industries in order to do the tests in the real field kind of conditions. So with this sort of a kind of an approach, we were able to develop technologies which can make an impact. So these are the two startups I co-founded out of my work at IIT Bombay. One is NanoSniff, the other one is the Soil Sensor, the soilsense.com. We built the prototype facilities, and so taking this forward, I'm sorry, I think I am done now, so taking things forward, so one of the things we realized, what are the things that you need to do so that we can create a culture of innovation in our educational institutes, particularly the IITs. This is what I strongly believe in. First thing that we need to do is expose students to real world problems. Very often when students or faculty members undertake research, at least in the Indian context, nobody is giving them a problem. So the way we carry out research is, when you take a PhD student, the PhD student goes to library, does literature survey, identifies some papers, reads them, finds some gaps, and writes another paper. So much of our research starts with the library and also ends with the library. So in order to change that, one of the things that we need to do is expose students to real world problems. At IIT Delhi, we created this immersion program. So what we are actually trying to do is, send students to the places. In fact, we have created an internship opportunity where IIT students will be going and spending time in the villages. Now, starting from this summer, at least 100 students will go and, stay with the farmer and just see how farming is done. What sort of technologies that the farmers use or don't use, what is that in IIT we can do so that we can improve productivity in the agriculture. We can also reduce the water consumption in the agriculture. But for that, these students need to actually understand what exactly are the problems that exist. And similarly, we also have a program with All India Institute of Medical Sciences. We call it a bio-design program, where IIT students spend time in the operation theater and try to understand what exactly happens in the operation theater and what is that they can do to make it easier for a doctor to perform a surgery kind of a thing. So this is what I call the immersion program. We started this immersion program. We also have started to create this multidisciplinary R&D culture, which is somewhat weak in our academic institutions. We at IIT Delhi, we started a new school called SIRE. This is called the School of Interdisciplinary Research, where we said that for every PhD student, there will be 2 supervisors from 2 different disciplines. Now, an electrical engineer working with a biomedical engineer, you can actually do a lot of things which otherwise are not possible as a pure EE, as a pure biomedical engineering kind of thing. So, through the SIRE, the School of Interdisciplinary Research, now we are trying to bring multiple disciplines together, break these barriers, and work on a problem-oriented kind of an approach. Another thing which we have also done is, we have just launched a new department of design. Because for product design, in academic institutes, we focus so much on technology, but we also need to, encourage our students to get into product design. So we have started a new department of design. We are offering the masters in design. We will also be starting a bachelor in design kind of an activity, kind of a program next year. And these are again ways for students to, start to design products. And we also, for example, through institutional mechanisms, we said that if you are able to do some of this kind of a research, you can expect grants from the institute. You can also get awards and rewards. We started a technology development award. We never had one. For example, if you are publishing papers, you get a lot of awards in the country today. But if you are developing a technology, which sometimes may not result in a lot of publications, so we have also started to recognize the institutional level, some of these awards. The educational training programs, we started, for example, a course on entrepreneurship, and 1,400 students of IIT Delhi have actually opted to take that course. We could not handle so many numbers because we have no room there no room where you can accommodate 1,400 students. So we shortlisted. Currently, about 600 students are actually taking the course at IIT Delhi on entrepreneurship. So there we are formally training the students. What is it that you need to do in order to start a company? And so this is another thing that we have done. Starting from next academic year, we are also starting a minor in entrepreneurship, where we will teach students what all it takes to be innovative, what all it takes to convert your innovation into a startup. And these are kinds of things that we hope will encourage that. We're also starting a PhD incubator. All IITs together today are producing about 2,000 high-quality PhD students. But very few of them get into the startup, or very few of them get into doing something on their own. They all either go abroad for the postdoctoral fellowships, or they take up academic kind of positions. At IIT Delhi, we are starting a PhD incubator, where we will take this year 50 of these students through a screening process. We provide them accommodation for 3 years. We provide them a fellowship for 3 years. We provide them all the facilities of IIT Delhi. And these students who have worked on a certain technology during their PhD, can they convert their technology into a product and then start a company? So we will encourage more and more PhDs to start these deep tech kind of startups, and by using the IIT Delhi kind of resources. And that's something that we are starting from this year. And we're also engaging with industries and alumni in the entrepreneurship development activities. We have, for example, started an industry day. A few months ago, we had this industry day. There were 200 industries present on the campus. We opened up all our research for the industries. We showcased to them what is happening in IIT, and that has led to lots of connections now, where many industries have written back to us saying that, oh, this is something that looks interesting, where we have an application, so can we start to interact with these faculty members further? That is something that we started, which is also yielding results now. And the support for faculty-led startups, we have about 500 faculty. Our target is at least 1 in 5 faculty members should be starting a company. So that is, what our target is, because in IITs, we need to focus on technology development, the entrepreneurship activities, which are more in the deep technology kind of space. I am not, though we don't really discourage students from doing whatever they want to, but I think we need to move away from these Adobe apps and apps like that, and move on to more technology kind of spaces and start to create innovation in the technology domain. That is something that we have done. So faculty, we have now started many initiatives for faculty to start companies. We have also focused on, because for a deep technology startup, the access to facilities is very important. And in IITs, we do have these facilities. And that is where at IIT Delhi, we are investing 100 crores this year in 2018 in creating more and more central research facilities, make them available for these technology startups, and help them go to, starting companies and scale up their kind of activities. And that's again something that we have done as an institute. And finally, institutional mechanisms for IP protection. We have, in India, somehow, we are very late entrants into the IP game. We have not been filing enough patents, or rather, we were not filing enough patents. 10 years ago, if you looked at any IIT, the number of patents we were filing were all like 10, 20 kind of patents. So now we realized that if you want to enter into the technology space for startups, you need to protect your IP. At IIT Delhi, this year, for example, we will be filing 100 patents. The same is true at IIT Bombay. So all our leading institutes are filing about 100 patents per year, and we have now almost a 600 patent portfolio in IIT Delhi, and we are trying to now commercialize these patents and encourage faculty members to file patents before they write papers, and these are the kinds of things that we are doing. I think it's a matter of time, and I am sure that in the next 5 to 10 years, you will see a lot of impact from the research that we carry out in IITs, because all this has started only about a few years ago, and that change in mindset, only from publishing papers to developing technologies that can impact the society. I think once that awareness has come, once we have realized what we need to do, I think it's just a matter of time. So things seem to be on track, and maybe 5 years from now, you will see lots of technologies developed from IITs, which you will be using in your day-to-day kind of lives. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so very much. I now invite on the dais Mr. Aditya Barlia, co-promoter APJSTEA and Swaran Group. Let's welcome Mr. Aditya Barlia on stage.
Hi. I'm going to come down here because this is really far from everybody and I can't see anybody. If I could get a little bit of light on the audience, I think there. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, almost afternoon. Can you all do me a big favor? Raise your right hand. I can see you now. Left hand. Keep them up. Stretch. Okay. So I'm going to try to